So, Len Wein died this week. Let's chat about that. Now, this week I'm doing something a little bit different. It's only a small episode because primarily I've hit holidays. I'm supposed to be taking a break, but I'm just putting together a small little episode for you for this week and hopefully a core mechanic for you for next week. But I wanted to veer away from what I normally talk about because for those who are regulars here, you would expect me to be talking about something to do with board gaming or the board gaming hobby. However, this week I wanted to talk about Len Wein, who passed away just recently. Now, for those of you who have no idea who Len Wein is, I want to suggest that maybe you might not know who the man is, but I suspect you're very familiar with his work. And that's because Len Wein created some of the most iconic comic book characters that we know of. And of course, no greater example of that than with the character of Wolverine. Not just the creator of Wolverine, he also did some really amazing stuff. If you want to know more about his life, I suggest you go and check out any number of the many wonderful tributes that have been made to him since he passed. Len Wein had a wonderful career in comics, and he was just so great at bringing them to the fore and making them a medium that is worthy of being respected. I don't want to give another tribute to him. I want to share some of my gratitude for his contribution and just talk a little bit about my journey and why I collect comics. As a kid in primary school, and I couldn't have been any more than grade 5 or 6, I used to watch the cartoons of a morning, and for some reason the particular show that was playing the cartoons decided to play X-Men, and I'm okay with that. I loved it. I really enjoyed it. I was like, what are these characters? I love this story. The problem was, I don't know who was programming the channel, but they kept showing the same first 2 episodes of season 1, which is a double-parter. So literally for several weeks in a row, we got almost the same episodes. Occasionally we'd get something new, but pretty much the same episode. So I only really knew the X-Men based on this cartoon, which was only the first few episodes of season 1. But the thing is, I really enjoyed it, so I used to watch it anyway, so it didn't really matter. Back then, I just loved watching that story, the X-Men story. I was really fascinated by the death of Morph and all the characters involved, but I really enjoyed Wolverine and the fact that he fought with Cyclops and didn't get along, and he was a bit gruff and a bit different. Then I had the chance to go into the city on a bit of a day out with some of my friends from youth group, and by that I mean, like, I was grade 4 or 5. They were more friends with my brother and sister, but I seemed to just slot in there. I spent a lot of time with older kids. They took me under their wing and they cared for me, and I really appreciated it. And so as a result, I got to go into the city one day just as a day trip, which was a huge deal because my parents just didn't usually allow that sort of thing to happen, but they trusted them enough to let me go in. And so they took me around to not only the music stores and got to see all the sorts of things that they liked, they took me to the comic book stores where comic books were in their boom period at this stage. Now we're talking early 90s here, 94 I believe, and things were really just at their height comic book wise. I went into one of the largest stores, Daily Planet, and they had this display case with these cards, and it was just folders of cards. Now, I'd seen sports cards before, and baseball cards, and basketball cards, football cards. I even collected the old Dick Tracy cards that you used to buy down at the local store that had the actual bubble gum in them, where you got the whole gum cards from, but that was great. I nearly had the whole set of Dick Tracy, and then I collected the cards from those sorts of venues, the news agents, and when they brought out the collectible coins for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the cartoon, before any movie was ever made. I collected the card set for Ninja Turtles, the movie, when it did come out in 1989. And I loved that sort of thing. I just enjoyed it. And then suddenly, I saw this one card, and it was this moment which I've never forgotten. I remember standing at the counter right next to the corner wall. Nobody was next to me. Nobody was taking an interest in these cards at all. And I just started flicking through, and I found this one card. And it took no amount of consideration for me to go, I'm buying this. Now, I must have had like only a couple of bucks spending money. It was the only thing I bought all day. But I bought that card, and that card just changed everything. So I bought this Glenn Fabry, I think, 1994 Fleer Ultra X-Men card. And from there, I just had to collect the whole set, and I did. And then I collected the 1995, and then I got the Hildebrand Marvel collection. I collected the other Marvel collections, and those cards sort of started to become the way I learnt the story of the X-Men and the Marvel Universe. From there, I started to pay attention to the cartoons more often, because the cartoons actually started to progress beyond the first season once they worked out whatever was going on. And then with the very first issue, post Age of Apocalypse, I decided to buy my first comic book, and from there I just started my collection. Now, comparatively, my collection is not that big. It's only a few thousand comics, but for me, it was the quality. I really honed in on X-Men, and I got everything X-Men, anything to do with X-Men. I became the hugest fan of Chris Claremont, and as a kid who just had no interest in reading, Chris Claremont pretty much taught me how to read casually and to read way better than I ever did. I would sit down with a dictionary to read his work. His work was comic books, but he didn't talk down to me as a kid. He used words which you would see in novels, and so I would learn words. I built a vocabulary thanks to the writings of Chris Claremont. Len Wein relaunched the X-Men with the X-Men Big Issue. Now, as much as he didn't take on the writing job, Chris Claremont took on the writing job for the monthly edition. His concept really shaped what X-Men were to become. Giant Size X-Men #1 had Nightcrawler, who was from Germany, which was still divided at this time, still had a giant wall through Berlin with Soviet-controlled and Allied-controlled and all. I mean, it's tension stuff going on there. You've got Colossus, who is Russian, in the middle of a Cold War. They've got a Russian defector. You've got Storm, who is a black African woman. Cultural revolution stuff going on now. And I mean, that's edgy stuff at the time. He has Wolverine, a Canadian, as a part of the mix. He has Warpath, a Native American. I mean, this is not, oh my goodness, like this was edgy, in-your-face political stuff. Like, this was amazing. It just went wildfire, and it really set the tone for the X-Men from there on, just about being, symbols and, of oppression and being ostracized, and that their mutation was what they were being ostracized for. But what you have is characters themselves who were at the time in culture being ostracized for whatever reason, like this was amazing stuff. And it's that sort of fierce boldness that the X-Men brought to its readership that I think took hold with me. And it's something that I've grown up with, and I've loved every minute of being an X-Men fan. Well, okay, all right. There was X3 and Wolverine Origins, but I'm talking about being a comic book fan. In a sense, like it was that Wolverine moment that really latched me into it. I think I've got a lot to thank Len Wein for, because without that Wolverine moment, I wouldn't be a comic book collector. I wouldn't have started the journey I did. I wouldn't have become the massive nerd that I am. So thanks, Len Wein, because you had a huge impact on me. And I'm really grateful for what you've contributed to the universe. I really encourage you, if you want to know more about him, to go and look at some of the biographical reflections and interviews with him. And he's just an amazing guy, and his contribution was fantastic. So thanks, Len. You're amazing. Look, this week I'm actually going to be working pretty hard on what's happening next weekend, which is Brisbane Comic Con. Ricky and I have been invited to come and do a couple of panels there. I'm going to be doing a panel with actually Dylan from Vault Games in Brisbane, and we're going to talk about whether you can trust board game reviewers or not, and we're hoping that there's going to be both edgy as well as informative and helpful. And Ricky and I specifically will be doing a game show panel on the Sunday. Both panels are at 2 o'clock both days. So the Saturday with Dylan and the Sunday with Ricky. We're going to do a game show. We've got a few guests coming along. We're going to be pulling people up from the audience. We're going to be giving away prizes. We're just going to have a bunch of fun doing a whole bunch of general knowledge nerd stuff. It's going to be great. We're really looking forward to it, but we've got a bit of work to do prep-wise. So in terms of activity in the next couple of weeks, probably I'm hoping to get a core mechanic done by next week, but I might actually just put that off to the week after, simply because there's so much going on, and I'm actually supposed to be resting. This is supposed to be downtime, but we'll see what happens. I'll keep you posted. In the meantime, go check out Gamerpalooza. I've just posted, last week I posted an interview with Watch It Played, Rodney Smith from Watch It Played. Really great guy, just as genuine as you would expect him to be. This week I posted an interview with Gil Hover, who's the designer of the networks and co-hosts Ludology with Greg Engelstein. So a couple of really great interviews there to go read. But also go and check out all of the other stuff that's on there. We've got game reviews, we've got up-and-coming news, so lots of good articles there. So go check that out at www.gamerpalooza.com.au. Other than that, if you like what we're doing here, please hit that like button. If you are new here, please hit that subscribe button. Have a wonderful week, and we'll look forward to seeing you next time. Until next time, I'm Dave Adams, and you've been watching Nerds of Wisdom.